Hey folks, it's Troy. I just wanted to show you something I just picked up. So this is the mass drop Durston X-Mid tent. And I just picked it up through a mass drop program, and I wanted to show it to you. So this is a one-person tent. It is made out of 40 denier polyester, and it has kind of a unique design that I wanted to kind of highlight today. And just for comparison's sake, this is kind of a typical two-person tent, and you can see that this X-Mid tent is about half the size. It's also well under half the weight. I believe that it's like 1.85 pounds, about 40 ounces, a little bit less than 40 ounces. And so it's a good backpacker tent. For further comparison, I mean, this is a typical Nalgene bottle, and you can see that it's a little bit taller and a little bit wider than a Nalgene bottle. I'd say it's like maybe double the width and 1.5 times the height of a Nalgene bottle. That's just for comparison's sake. So one of the unique features of this tent is that it's a one-person tent, and it's what they call a poleless tent or a tent pole tent. And so you use, a trekking pole tent. So you use trekking poles to assemble the tent. And these are my trekking poles that I like to use. They're the Black Diamond Z poles. And these are non-adjustable poles. They are the 120 centimeter length. And I checked before I purchased the tent if these would work, and it seemed like they were about the right size. And I've set this tent up once, and they do work out quite nice. So I point that out because if you do buy fixed length trekking poles, you need to make sure they're the right length. And once again, these are the 120 centimeter length. If you have adjustable poles, you can by all means, adjust them to use accordingly with the tent. So I'm going to set this tent up. This aside for now. And the tent, it's pretty basic. It just comes with this tent bag, and then it has a little bag with 8 titanium stakes inside. I'm just going to put that in my pocket for right now. Pull the tent out of the bag. Let's see. Okay. And I think the way that they recommend that you set this up is you just kind of grab the corners, throw it out. So if it's a windy day, you may just take a little more care. That's pretty much what you do. You kind of lay it out that way. And then you take your tent stakes. And I know it comes with 8 tent stakes, but you can set this up with as few as 4. I'm going to choose to set up 5 tent stakes, and I'll show you why. But it's pretty simple. Just grab your tent stakes in your hand. Find one of the loops at the corner, and you stake it in. So that's the first corner. Find the second corner. There's a loop on this end. And you kind of pull it tight to that corner, and you stake it in. And you go around the tent doing the same thing. This one's pretty key in that you want it to be, at the proper angle. It's the same thing. You just grab it, you pull it taut, and you stake it in. Of course, once you have these 4 corners placed, you can always make some micro adjustments. Here we go. I'm going to use this last stake here at the door, and it's not needed, but it makes it a little bit easier to use the tent and the vestibule. So that's the first part. Then you grab your trekking poles, and there's a little hole right here See, actually, it's the vent for the tent, and you kind of open this up. There's a Velcro closure, and then you take one of your poles, and you can actually use it with the pole handle up or the pole handle down. I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to use it with the pole handle down this time. So the handle is in the ground, and then there's a little pocket here, and there's a grommet that you place the pole tip, and then you kind of tension the pole taut. You just push it in there until your tent is taut, and you can see that it already is kind of taking form. I could probably do that a little bit better, but I'm going to grab the second one, and on this side it's very similar. There's a vent here with a hole, so you open this vent up. This time I'm going to use it with the handle up. You put the hole inside the pocket, and then you stretch it out. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you can see that it's already taken form. You know, if it's not quite perfectly tight, you can adjust these spikes to make it even fit tighter. And then your pole is ready to go. You really don't need to put any guidelines down. There are some additional lines. There's one here that you can stake out this way. There's one here that you can stake out this way to add additional structure and security when it's windy or rainy. Another feature of this tent is that, I already mentioned, it has these vents. They're Velcro down, but then they have a post inside here that you pop up, and it allows air to vent through the top portion of your tent. That helps, reduce condensation on the inside of your tent. There's some additional areas where you can stake out the tent if you want. There's a little area here where you can put it as tent stake. There's one on the other side, there's one on the back. But for the most part, that's all you really need to do to set up this tent. 5 stakes in the ground, 2 trekking pole tents. So it's really fast, it's really easy. I think I mentioned the material of this, but this is a 40 denier polyester. It's silicone treated for the weather resistance. And one thing that's good about that is that I believe polyester doesn't stretch as much as nylon. So hopefully the durability and the integrity of the tent stays pretty true. So here you have the door. And this door can be rolled up like mini tents, you just roll it up. And then there's a little loop here that you can put the grommet through. And then you have this opening which allows ventilation, or if you're on the inside, it allows a good view out of the tent body. So in this space right here, there's a vestibule with enough space. From here, it goes from about 6 inches to about 2 feet. So that's plenty of space to put your backpack or perhaps other gear that you might have, your shoes, that you can store outside of your tent. One of the unique aspects of this tent is that while the floor print of this tent is rectangular, the internal tent actually sits at a diagonal. And this kind of maximizes space so that you're using a very small footprint, for the tent, but you're maximizing your sleeping space. And then it has a vestibule on this side, a door, and then it also has a vestibule and a door on the other side. Another unique feature of this tent is that many of these trekking pole tents, when you set them up, the pole is right in the middle, and it kind of inhibits your access to the tent, or it makes it a little more difficult. This one, you'll notice that the pole is actually to the side, and then the door opens right here, and so you have full access, easy access to get inside your tent. So that's kind of important. Also, like if you're inside your tent, and sometimes people do this, is they'll, if it's raining or if it's in the morning, they might cook right outside their tent. So that's kind of a nice feature that the pole is to the side and not right in the middle. So I wanted to show you what the interior of the space is like, and I wanted to use this as a way that you can kind of judge. This is a Thermarest Z-Lite pad. It's a pretty common pad for a lot of backpackers. It's very well known. And so it's an accordion foam pad. I'm just gonna slide this inside so you can see the spacing. And I'm gonna pick up the camera and bring it over here so you can have a closer look. But basically, the foam pad fits inside. The foam pad is about 6 feet long, and I think it's like 24 inches wide. But on either side of the foam pad, there's at least 6 inches, maybe 8 inches of space. And then at the head and at the foot, I would say it goes from about, because it's a diagonal, it's about 6 inches to over a foot at the head. And then, yeah, maybe about the same, 6 inches to a foot at the footer. So I'm gonna grab the camera and bring you inside this tent and show you the details. So as we look at this tent, I'm gonna show you some of these details. Here's the vent, and you can see that it allows air to come up through here, or condensation to air out. There's this rod here that keeps it in place. But normally there's just this Velcro strip, and you can seal that if it's very inclement weather. Here's a look at some of the details of the zipper, and I believe that this is I don't know if it's completely waterproof, but weatherproof zipper. Here's one of the additional guidelines that you can use to tie out, and you would just pull it further out, stake it in, and that would give you extra security. I'll show you some of the other fasteners here. It has this adjustable fastener here. Titanium stake is already in the ground. So each of these corners is very similar. You have some reinforcement here. You have cord lock, titanium stake. This is what it looks like from this angle. So it actually creates a pretty unique profile where I think in a windy situation it would hold up pretty well. So let's see, let's take a look on the inside. This is a two-way zipper. I'm going to show you. And the fact that I can do this with one hand, it's a good sign. But so it's two-way. You can open it, from the top or bottom, depending on where you like to locate your zipper. I always like to locate it at the top, and then I just bring it down, unzip it. So I'm going to climb inside. And you can see there's the foot space down there with the pad. And I'm just gonna zip this up so no mosquitoes. But when you're sitting on this pad is again 6 foot. I'm 6 foot long. There's about a foot worth of space where you can store some gear. Let's look back here. Same situation. Here's the pad. Here's like another foot of space. It tapers down to about 6 inches of space where you can rest. And then, let's see, if I put this in the middle of the tent, you can see that there's probably about, 6 inches on the side of the pad for space. Same here. And again, this is a backpacker tent, so it's not designed to, have a whole lot of space. You're trying to optimize your internal space. But anyway, I'm gonna see what it's like when I lay down. Okay. Okay. So I'm 6 foot tall, and my pad, the sleeping pad is, a few inches away from the edge of the tent. And this is what they call a bathtub tent that, helps prevent water from entering. And so the walls kind of creep up so that it just creates like a bathtub effect. But anyway, you can see that I have headspace down here, and the net is not touching my head. I have, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 inches. And then down here, sorry, there's space down here where my feet are not touching the mesh. So there's space down there. And the other thing I wanted to show you was, like, when you're sitting up, and you know, sometimes you just need to do something inside your tent, whether it's change clothes, or if it's bad weather, it's raining, you're just gonna spend some time inside your tent, and so you wanna be able to sit up. So when I sit up, there's probably, I don't know, 5-6 inches of headroom. Now, these tent sides, the mesh of this tent, they are kind of, you know, touching my shoulders. It doesn't bother me too much, but you know, that could probably be fixed if I had like a, I could probably figure something out, like a little loop where I could attach the mesh to the outer tent lining or tent shell, and that would pull the sides of the mesh out to give me more space on the inside. But let me show you this. So this is what the vestibule looks like. You know, down at this end where the foot is, it's narrow, and then it opens up, and there's quite a bit of space. I would say at least 2 feet worth of space between the tent and the tent wall. And you know, like, my shoes are out there. On this side, you also have a door and a vestibule, and so you have equal amount of space. So you could easily, you know, put backpack or gear, whatever you want, inside this space. It's actually pretty large. And this is an example of, let's see, here's the 2-way zipper. I can open this. This is how the pole is put inside. So if you can see, there's like a little pocket, and then the pole handle is just pressed up in that pocket. And if you use the tip of it, there's a little grommet that you put the tip into to help prevent it from poking a hole in your tent. And it supports it the same way, and then the tent, I mean, the pole just goes into the ground. This is the vent, and one good thing is that you can open and close this vent from the inside of your tent. So if it's raining, I could close that vent, and it would add, you know, some protection so water wouldn't get in. But if it's hot, I can open that tent and allow more ventilation. And it's good that you can do it from the inside the tent. I don't have to go outside my tent to do it. Once again, let's see. See, there's 2 zippers on this internal tent. Oh, I don't know if you can tell, but there's also a pocket up here where you can store things. So you can put your cell phone, a headlamp, things like that you might need in the middle of the night in this pocket. And that's just kind of handy. But anyway, so this is the Mass Drop Durston X-Mid 1-person tent, and I just recently picked it up. I haven't actually used it on a trip yet, but I'm looking forward to using it. At the end of this month, I'm have a short little camping trip planned, and we'll see how it goes. But it's very compact, it's very light. You know, once again, it's like less than 2 pounds, 1.85 pounds, I think. Less than 40 ounces. I think that's less than 400 grams or something like that. But I'm looking forward to using it. I haven't owned one of these types of tents. I've owned poled tents before, but this is kind of new. And so anyway, just wanted to show this to you. Thanks.